Hello, welcome to the We in Wellness Conversations and Meditations with Dr. K. Hi, Jason. Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Um, okay, so I invited you on the podcast because I know that you work with men, you host retreats, you also love a good plant medicine journey. I'm interested in all the things. So, um, let's work backwards. I want to know about the last time that you, I don't know, supported the healing of one of your clients or a friend.
The last time, uh, I just had someone come in a couple weeks ago. Um, it's a friend that I met 16 years ago in Barbados, and he came with his family to celebrate his 49th birthday, and he wanted to do a journey, and so we went into the journey. I've been thinking a lot about healing and what my role, if any, is going to be from from here on out. And I realized that I didn't want to be a therapist. I didn't want to be um, a healer per se.
Mm-hmm.
I just really wanted to be I wanted to be a good friend to my people, and a friend that can facilitate and support in certain ways, but someone that never ceases to be a friend. And I think that in my life, friendship is the most healing thing I can think of. Yeah, there are other experiences that have helped me, therapy, plant medicine, you know, many other things. But I think when I look back at the things that like really saved my life, that really kept me going, it was friendship. And so yeah, that's kind of the way I've been kind of defining my role in people's lives. Supporting the healing of people. Sure.
Being a friend is the way that you define supporting people and the way that you choose to live your life. And sometimes that includes healing in more um, formal contexts. And sometimes that's the in between of what happens in the magical space of friendship. Cool. Um, I get that. I get that because, I mean, yes, I am a therapist and I'm also a doctor. Um, and I know that when people come to me, they're kind of expecting me to have all of the answers. And then I'm like, okay, what are your answers? We're just going to dig in and try to find those together. Um, so I get the friend thing. I also work with friends sometimes in clinical ways or in healing ways. And everyone is surprised that I'm capable of doing that, but I actually prefer that. So
Hmm.
I think I understand. And then when it comes to retreat work, I know that we were in retreat together, and there's something kind of magical that happens when it's not so, um, you're coming for this, and then I provide this, and then you get, here is your result. It's more, I don't know, synergistic if it's spontaneous, like what people can get out of being in community and with friends.
I love how you call that a retreat still. That was that's just more like a hang in my head. But yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like a hang. So, okay, I'm loving that we're having this conversation because someone asked me recently, what is it like to be in retreat with you? And like, if I'm or with me, they were like, what do you want to hear retreats? And I was trying to describe it, but the best way to describe it was our like Costa Rica hang. So, in the sense of, yeah, I ended up saying that I love a curated group and everybody gets something out of it in their own time. Because, well, let me be honest, Jason. If that was your version of a hang, a lot of people cried during that hang. A lot of people had breakthroughs during that hang. Right. So let me ask you this. What's the difference for you between a hang and a retreat?
well, yeah. I mean, I think it's just a hang is you're just kind of letting it flow, right? You're just letting whatever emerges, whatever. Uh, you're not really. There's no real structure to the experience. Um, and I mean, we're talking about these things as if they were things, right? Like it's more like what my experience when I think of a retreat. What do I think of? What I think of a hang. I think that I do think of a retreat as something that is somewhat curated and structured versus a hang. It's just whatever happens, and that's fine. Um, so yeah, I mean, our time together in Costa Rica was a highly unstructured experience,
Yeah,
right? So that's the main distinction that I make.
got it.
And I would say, I mean, you're fun to hang out with, but I think also, um, I think that you do have expertise, and you did have a sense of the people that were in the group, and I personally could have uh, could have gone for much more of you telling us, all right, y'all, this is what we're going to do. This is my read, and this is the space that I'd like to create for you, and I'd like to invite you in. And you may have had other stuff going on at this time. That's okay. You can come back to it. You can go back to it when we're done. But this is what we're doing now. I think the group could have definitely worked with that much better than maybe you thought we could.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I was like, yeah, that experience was also me trying to be in the group more than I would if I'm like, I'm hosting a retreat. Pay me this money and come. So that was definitely a
For
distinction.
sure. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but for me, what opened up was how much can be moved through if you're just around the right people and community and have the time for it. Um, and I know that people listening have like no context, so I'm trying to figure out how to
None whatsoever.
get. So what do we do? We went to Costa Rica. You live in Costa Rica, but we were there for 7 days. Um, we were in the beach, we were in the mountains. Uh, we hiked, we walked. If it was Jason's to say it, it was more like a walk for him. It was like a hike for me.
Yeah.
Um, and several of the people present were practitioners in different ways, and there were also some comedians present, which added some nice levity to the situation. Um, and we had a lot of shared meals, which I think was supportive of people opening up, and we just became friends. And in that process, people kind of were able to look at their traumas from a different perspective and their patterns and be supported in different ways to move through that or to face it. That's my best summary I can give. Does that work?
Yeah, and I think you were aware of what was going on much more than the rest of us. So, like I don't know if I was privy to all of that, but yes, I mean to an extent I was, but yeah,
So, okay. Well, yeah. I also had more conversations with people after, and I
yeah,
know
for sure.
everything we got out of the retreat slash hang. So, okay, but so to go back to the point, when you're hosting retreat or when you have one individual come for retreat, um, what structure do you provide, and what can they anticipate um, experiencing or walking away with?
I mean, I I've never really kind of thought about this in this way, but let's just say um, one thing that comes to mind is that when someone comes on retreat, um, when I curate a retreat for an individual, or I'm taking care of everything. Like their only job is to be uh, to be present to their own experience. But all the logistics, all the like the plan for the day, the like that is taken care of. That is not something that they need to worry about. And it's not like a highly structured like hour to hour, minute by minute, but it is um like the space is always held and it's always clear and people have what they need, and then they can just do whatever they want in that container. And so I think that's one of the things I think is really and again it's also about hosting. Like when people come into my home, um, I approach it very similarly, um, because I do feel that one of the biggest obstacles to doing any type of, I mean, let's not even call it healing because that sounds a little dramatic, but I think being able to let go of having to control things is a really important, like, preliminary step for any type of deeper work. And so if I can help that, if I can kind of assure the person, listen, I got this covered, or we have this covered, it makes a huge difference. And I would say that, you mentioned one of the things that I do is that I have men come down to do personalized psychedelic assisted journeys. And I mean, journey work is powerful work, but uh, I've often felt that the experience of being cared for during a period of 5 to 7 days is as impactful for a lot of men as uh, as whatever they get from the journey itself. Like it's a very, very important part, and I think it can be very easily undervalued or overshadowed by the experience. But I believe it's powerful, and so yeah, I put a lot of energy into that.
I want to go. I want a personal psychedelic assisted journey. Um, but I'm hearing what you're saying about creating space, holding space. That's the word you use, holding space. Um, how, if you could create a guide, how do you do that? Do you know how you do that, or does it just happen? Is it intuitive?
These are very valuable questions, um, and I think the reason why an answer isn't I don't have a ready answer necessarily is because a lot of it is intuitive. You work with groups long enough and you learn to hopefully read um, what is created by the group. Or you read like what is needed from the group, not from. I'm not talking about the aggregate of the individual needs. I'm talking about as when this group of people to come together. What is the thing that they create, and what is that needing? Um, it's much easier to do with an individual. It's much easier to sense if someone needs to move or needs to be still. And so holding space in part is really just about accompaniment. It's about being able to be with what is happening and not try to intervene, not try to change it. You allow for it to be. Um, and that's the people that are most gifted at holding space, at least the ones that I've observed, do very little in on the surface. Um, is very much about presence. But I think that there are also ways in which you work with the environment to be conducive or to support what is wanting to happen, and that takes a bit more action, proactivity. But yeah, I mean, I'd say it's just really about being present to what is happening.
Okay. Do you hmm, do you believe you got to this place because you naturally are good at letting go of control and allowing things to be? Or was that part of your journey to get to a place where you can allow without intervening?
Really, the thought that came to mind is like, who is good at letting go of control? Like, I just don't like. I just imagine myself saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm really good at letting go." Like I know I'm not. Um, but I think that this is um, when you've been the beneficiary of people holding space for you. And we this is such a it's like a burnt out phrase. We say holding space, but to be present and to accompany you effectively through difficult periods of your life, you really realize like what you begin seeing what is actually happening. At first, you're just receiving and you're benefiting from it, but you're not really understanding what this person is offering you. Um, but I think over the years, I felt like I began to observe the people in my life that kind of accompanied me through my healing and my growth. Um, I could see what they were doing as they were doing it, and so that has taught me. Their example has taught me, and of course, when we get training and we do this and that, but I would attribute whatever capacity I have to accompany people, to create space, hold space. Um, it's largely because of the ways that I've been supported. Um, yeah.
So it's, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question. Be
Hmm.
realizing that you're someone who allows, or your intention is to allow what needs to be there for one of your clients or one of your friends to get what they need, which comes from spirit or inside themselves or wherever that comes from. Uh, you're so that's part of the question. It's part of the setup for this. But then I'm also wondering, um, how do you remove yourself from that equation if you know someone that you're their friend? You may have like human insight as to what they need. Um, do you think that that goes into the actionable part of the space holding? Or is that, do you know what I'm trying to ask? Does it make sense?
Um, like I guess one question I'm hearing is how do you know what is needed,
Much
right?
simpler.
Um, and to what extent is knowledge or familiarity with the person, um, how does that kind of feed into or inform? Um, I mean, I think it's important to specify like what type of context we're talking about, right? Because sometimes if we're just hanging out, like what's up is a really good question. Like what's going on for you is a really good question, right? Like I don't like I think that if it's just a if just in kind of an informal conversation or even in a more structured therapeutic or coaching session, you know sometimes it's really just about asking. But I think in the journey space, um, most of the experience happens in silence. And so there are physical cues that people give about what is happening for them, where they are in the arc of the journey. And that's just reps. You are in that space enough to understand that someone's restlessness is not or their movement is not restlessness. It is the onset of the medicine, or it's not frustration or impatience or discomfort. It's just the the natural deepening of the experience. So these are just things that, and it's not an exact science. You don't really know ever for sure. Sometimes you're completely off. Um, but I think if you observe something long enough, you you know it in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. And we've observed many people go through this experience. Um, and some of it is unique to the individual, and some of it is just kind of like patterns that you recognize. Um, so, but yeah, having some familiarity with the person and having some understanding of the story of what brought them to that experience is helpful. Like, so that maybe if I play D'Angelo Send It On right at this moment, it might make a difference, you know, or something like that. Like there are ways, that, and I think that that's a fun, it's a, not fun, well, it is fun, but it's also, I guess, part of the artistry of holding space.
Yikes. Um, I will just say my experience of this, because you don't know this yet, but I
Mm-hmm.
just on my first psilocybin journey a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to do it in private ceremony with a facilitator and like two shamans. And I remember because there were also multiple medicines given. And somewhere, maybe after the second, I was like, oh, the way y'all hold space is very different than the way a therapist would hold space. Like this is like if a th not to throw all my therapists under the bus, but the way we hold space is at a certain baseline. It's like times 100 when someone is seeing all of your inner workings and things you don't normally show people, and then they're still holding space for it, which I feel is part of what journeying is. Um, and then it's, done with love or done with sternness if that's what you need, or done it's they're malleable around what the situation requires. That was my experience of it. And so I'm understanding what you say when you say, and there's holding space. There's not we overuse that phrase, because it does seem like it's more than that happening.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the journey space in particular, I think that I the journey space is one in which I think the both I mean, there are real things happening in the body and in the brain, right? Like it's not like, in a way, it's not that magical if you think about it. Like there is the default mode network
Hmm.
in your brain is being stimulated, which leads to a deeper capacity for introspection. And, so the mushrooms are acting um, on your body and on your brain in very specific ways. Um, but I think the part of it that always feels otherworldly is how um, so consistently people know exactly where to go in those journeys, or they feel taken to exactly the place that they needed to go, and and that they were capable of being there. But it wasn't like a completely overwhelming experience, but that they were um, they were able to be present to it. And I know a lot of people have had bad trips and whatnot. I feel like we have to be very, very clear in our distinction between a supported journey,
Exactly.
one that is in a therapeutic context or healing context, and one that is done out in the woods with friends. I really feel like they're like night and day. And I think that part of it has to do with how supported and held the environment is, but also it has to do with our preparation, and the clarity of our intention as we enter into that. And that's all work, right? That all requires very intentional work, right? But I feel like it is. Um, I I have come out of doing this work now for pretty intensely for the past 3 years, with a very, very firm belief in the wisdom of the body and of the mind and of the human spirit, if you will. Um, and that when you remove the veils, when you remove the clutter, um, that spirit, that mind, that body knows exactly what it needs. And so we don't have to do that much. Um, we shouldn't try to do much. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, the journey space is not the space to be extra. It's not the space to kind of take it upon yourself to do something. I really feel I've come away with this really, really strong belief that um, we are naturally resourceful, naturally wise, um, and if we're taken care of in all the right ways, we do the work that needs to be done.
I feel like that ties in so beautifully to showing up in friendship and community. Um, that you're acknowledging and supporting others to be more fully themselves.
You know, I feel like I know myself in the way that I do because of the friends that I have. I see myself in the way that I do because of the way that people know me and love me. It's not separate from that. It's very much in dialogue with that. And in some cases, the way I see myself is just because that's the way people uh, are determined to see me. And so I am very, the older I get, the more I roll my eyes at this idea of like, I have to go and find myself. You find parts, but you're not finding all of you in solitude or in, you are, so much of us is co-created. And so yeah, I'm like, to be able to see me in my entirety, I need really good people around me. That's the way that was kind of the thought that was coming to mind.
That's really beautiful. And I get it. I'm someone who has chosen to live away from community at different points in my life. And the thing, if I could distill it down, what I need when I go back to community, it's what you're talking about. But not in like a self, like I need these people to show me who I am. It's more like I need to be in community so all of us can see these pieces. And when show back up with folks, it's like they remember a part of themselves that comes out when I'm around and vice versa. And um, yeah, there's a connectedness that is part of the definition of humanity that a lot of our societies try to get away from. Um, Good.
Another word that is thrown around a lot is community, and we kind of use it very loosely. Uh, I often don't know what people mean when they use that word, and I was thinking about it prior to this our conversation, and so kind of taking this definition of love from Michael Scott Peck and more recently Bell Hooks, that love is the commitment to another person's spiritual growth. I feel like that is what community is. It is a system that has as its purpose, its primary purpose, to support the spiritual development of the system, of the individuals, and also of the system. And it's one of the reasons why, like, I shy away from using the word friend too lightly, because I may have had a positive experience with somebody. I may feel like even love in my heart for them, but we're not necessarily committed to each other's spiritual growth in an intentional and proactive way. So I feel like we are, when it comes to friendship and love and community, our language falls short of kind of describing the different layers of that.
Hmm.
Um, because people say like, well, I have a lot of friends. I've said that, but what I'm saying is I'm friendly with a lot of people.
Hmm.
I would love to hear from a lot of people if they were reached out, and you know, but my friends really are, or my community is beyond the locality that I'm in, beyond the people that I'm just connected to by virtue of living in the same space, which is also an important layer of community. In this context, as we're talking about it, that's the way. That's what it is. It's like we're committed to each other's spiritual growth, and that's kind of the center of our interactions and what we do together.
So since we're kind of there's a layer underneath our conversation about how would we define spirituality or how would we define um maybe wellness or is because I believe that wellness exists in community and what you provide community and what you can receive because that's part of life. Uh, for you, when you're talking about being committed to other spiritual growth, um, how do you define spirit?
In a nutshell, in a nutshell, I mean, I define God or the divine as the unknowable essence that pervades all things. And we, I think it is It can also be expressed as just like the natural pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness, which I believe is not an ideal. It's actually, um, there is something inherent to us that does that. And there are other parts that are inherent to us that are inclined in other directions, that aren't necessarily interested in truth, beauty, and goodness, but are interested in other things that are also just as much as part of us as that. But I think that that part that is naturally inclined, that core, more essential part of us that is naturally inclined to um, the sacred or the divine, is that trajectory is spiritual growth. And we all find truth, beauty, and goodness in different things. But I think one of the signs that people are connected to that is often joy. And as a friend, if I see someone acting in a way that doesn't bring them joy, um, that doesn't bring joy to other people, or quite, quite obviously is causing harm, part of why we're in relationship is to be able to reflect that back to them. Um, and then the things that they do that do bring joy, that bring joy to others, to champion that like a motherfucker, you know. So that I think it's obviously much more complex than that. But if I'm gonna make it really concrete, I that's kind of the minimum about being committed to another person's spiritual growth.
Okay. So in close of this conversation, I feel like there's so many follow-ups that I want to have about this, but um if you because there's people listening or watching this, which I've been forgetting about as we're in conversation. But if you could leave them with a thought or an idea or a concept um, related to who you are, maybe your essence that's with the world, which maybe is related to your work, maybe it's related to how you're a friend, maybe it's related to how you love. Um, what would that be?
Mm, I just, there is no such thing as just friends. I really, I've come to really detest that phrase. I feel like friendship is one of the highest expressions of, like, true friendship is one of the greatest things that we can aspire to. And anything that would place these crazy, backward ass ideals of romantic love above that is bonkers to me. Um, so I think I think friendship is what keeps us alive in this world. It certainly has for me, and so um, yeah, like value that for what what it really is. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's what came to mind.
So good. Wow, friendship. So now I'm like, are we friends?
That's more of an off the camera conversation. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just edit that out. Just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna pull a card. I'm very curious if it will be a friend card or a love card after what you just said. This is regular tarot, so we'll see what pops out in a second. hmm And I'm not gonna hold you. Hmm. We got mhm, self-reflection with four baskets, which I will pop a picture in. But it's a woman looking at herself in the mirror and realizing that she is what keeps herself stable. So, and we also got justice, which is all about balance. And oh, I've never looked at the justice in this deck. But there's a group of people balancing one of the scales. They're all holding it up together to keep it even. So I don't know if you can see that, but these are all people holding up a scale to make it balance.
Can't really see it, but I like what you're describing.
Sure. I'll send you a picture of it.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being open and willing to have this conversation.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
yeah. And I'll see you next time.